like to take you through 4 changes that have been made in the new version of SAP version 10. First one I'll take you through is to do with the approval process. So approval process sits under administration and the approval process, and you can see you've got the stages, templates, status and decision reports as per the previous versions of SAP. The change they've made is actually in the general settings that sits under the system initialization. So under general settings, you've got the business partner tab there, and this is where the approval process settings sit. In the previous versions, you had in version 8 of SAP, you didn't have any options to change documents when they were going through the approval process. In version 9, they introduced some more flexibility with the ability to be able to update things by the originator of the document. And now in version 10, they've added this extra option to allow the authorizer of any document to update it prior to sending it back to the originator. So with these tick boxes, you can control whether documents can be changed when they're within when they've gone through or within the approval process. And this latest change just means that somebody who sent a document for approval can make changes to that document and then return it back to the originator for them to add on to the system. So it just makes the whole approval process a little more usable. Okay, second change is to do with reference documents. Now, this was a feature that was introduced in version 9. Some of you may be familiar with it, but what they've done in version 10 is made the reference documents more flexible in terms of the fact you can pick more or less any document now within version 10. It was quite limited in version 9 to the documents that you could reference, but in version 10 they've extended that now. So I'll give you a quick demo of how referencing documents work. So if we go into sales AR and we go into maybe a sales invoice and we pick any sales invoice, you can see we picked an invoice that is actually closed here. Under the accounting tab, you've got this field here called reference document with the dots against it. And from here, you can link documents to this sales invoice. So if we click on those dots, it presents this screen where you can link other transactions that are within the system to this sales invoice. So this could be useful maybe when you'd incur some purchasing costs, maybe to deliver the items that were on this invoice. So you could link the purchase order that you'd sent to maybe the freight forwarder to this sales invoice. So to do that, you just select the type of document you want to link. So we could pick a purchase order, and then we could select a document number. So it'll now present you with a list of purchase orders because we told it the document type in the first column. We then pick a purchase order, click choose, and then update. And that will link, once we click update on the invoice, that will link that document to this invoice. So you can see here, we've now got a number 1 in brackets, which means we've got one reference document should link to this invoice. You can view reference documents from the relationship map. So if you do a right click and you go into the relationship map, you can see the traditional relationship map where you can see that this invoice was originally a quotation which turned into an order which went to a delivery. The invoice was produced and then it was paid. But you can change the view on the relationship map, and you can view reference documents. So we click on there, you can now see that this sales invoice is linked to this purchase order. And as you will probably gathered from the format of the screen, you can link more than one document together. You can reference more than one document to this invoice. Okay, next thing is a fairly small one, but useful, is that they've increased the field size on the groups within business partners. So when we go into business partner and we look at customer groups, they've increased the group name to 100 characters. On the previous version of SAP, this was 20 characters. It just allows you to be a little more descriptive when you're setting up your customer and supplier groups. The final one I want to run through relates to user-defined fields. Within Business One, you can obviously, as most of you know, you can create your own fields within objects in the system. So on marketing documents, any marketing documents, you can create header user-defined fields, and you can create row user-defined fields. Now, you could always, on the system, after you'd closed the document, you could always go back and you could change the user-defined fields on a header. So if we go into maybe a sales order and we look at the first sales order on this system, you can see that sales order's closed. And you've got here no ability to change anything on those lines. Everything's grayed out because the order is closed. If we go on and apply this new setting that they put in version 10, then you'll see that this changes. So where the setting lives, it lives in document settings, which sits under administration, system initialization, and document settings. And then if you go to the per document tab and select the type of document you want to apply this setting to, so we'll say sales orders. You can apply it to any of these documents. We're gonna work with sales orders, and you've got this new option at the bottom here: allow update of user-defined field when rows of documents are not editable. So you can tick that box, and then you can update. And then what we'll do now is we'll go back into the sales order, and you should be able to see that now you can edit that field. So if there are any user-defined fields that are on the rows of the sales order. So if we go back into the sales order, we find that sales order that we were looking at originally, you can see all the lines are still grayed out. If we go right to the end here, you've got a user-defined field, and you can tell it's a user-defined field by hovering over it and look at the name of the field. That field now you can type text into and then update, and that will save it against this sales order. So a very useful feature. Maybe you may have deliveries that you want to go back and put tracking numbers against lines on a delivery note, for instance. Yeah, just makes the system a little more flexible.